right, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hopefully you're at the right place. This is the Fast Moving Consumer Goods webinar. We do it every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And I have my co-host and co-founder, Jorge Olson. Jorge, are you on?
I'm on.
All right. Well, welcome. We got quite a few people on today from all over the different parts of the country. I see a couple of international ones too. I assume that's from our guests in Mexico. But let's go ahead and start. You clicked on to join How to Launch a Product in 90 Days, a consumer brand in 90 days. And you're talking to the two right guys who have done this for the last 30 years. We've launched over 1,000 items. Jorge, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, we're gonna have official introductions in a few clicks. My name is Jorge Olson. I'm here to answer your questions. Please interrupt us with questions. Don't worry about it. We're here for you. You can write them down in the chat as we go, because we're gonna talk about so many things. If you can go to the next slide, Sandro. We're gonna talk about so many things that you might say, wait, I need more information about that. We also want to thank our sponsor, CPG Experience. He is part of the incubator. If you plan on going to a trade show, don't spend $20,000, $30,000 to be at that trade show with your booth. Together with us in CPG Experience, you can share very, very large booths where you pay a very, very minimal fee, about 10% or 7% of what you would pay on your own, and you get to share leads with other entrepreneurs. Thank you for the sponsorship.
Yeah, Shannon, thank you for being our sponsor. We're excited, and our first show will be coming up in LA, so we're going to invite everyone at the end to come meet us.
That's right. We're going to go through a lot. Don't get overwhelmed with the slides. We're going to cover coastal distribution, formulation. We're going to cover how to sell online, manufacturing, getting samples, getting funding. We're going to cover merchandising. We're going to cover product validation, pricing, IP, what you can and cannot get in intellectual property. And of course, how to work with us in every step of the way. If you want to, you can ask your questions so we can tailor this to you. For example, if you're in formulation, you can type formulation. If you are in manufacturing right now, you can type manufacturing. If you are already in sales and distribution in Target or Walmart or 7-Eleven, type that so we can talk about that a little bit as well. If you're doing warehouse programs to Whole Foods, you can type that as well. We want to tailor this to you, so let us know where you are in your adventure, so then we can address that as we go.
Perfect. Okay, starting assembly stage number 1, Jorge.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over, of course, your questions, but also from idea all the way to having a product ready to go on the shelves in 90 days. So you can get an idea that this can take 2 years. Usually we get people in that already spent 2 years and $200,000, and they're nowhere in this process where we want them to be. So today we're going to talk about what we can do and how we do it to go from idea to the shelf, or at least idea validation with samples ready to go for buyers, investors, etc. in 90 days. Is it possible? Yes, we've done up to 30 products. We did it for Snoop Dogg in 90 days.
Here is so Jorge, the reason we talk about this quite a bit, this is a Nielsen study that 85% of all consumer brand goods fail within the first year. And we call and we talk to people that we met right along the way that are in our database. And it's not because the product was not good, not because of bad product taste, not because lack of passion. It's they had poor execution, right? They didn't know what to do next, so they just started guessing and doing things in the wrong order.
Yep, that's right. And it's not just what they say, right? It's not just Nielsen's. We have the same experience. When we see our database of 30,000 founders, we see the ones that work, the ones that didn't work, and it's not the product. It's not because it's not the best tasting.
Correct. So here's a little bit of the chain, and you can explain this really well, Jorge.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we need to see where you are in your process. That's for everybody, because everybody is in a different stage. Some of you are in formulation, some of you are in idea. And this is where we start. Let's say that everybody's starting from scratch. Then we need the foundation for everybody. This is about 1 to 6 weeks is what it takes. And this goes through the structure of your, I think a lot of you don't like this, but your corporation. Hopefully you don't have an LLC and you have a corporation, a C Corp, if you want to scale. If not, that's fine. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over your perfect consumer, because you need to start thinking now about how you're going to sell to your perfect consumer. Everything else derives from your perfect consumer backwards. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about your financials, your sales, your distribution, your supply chain, but in numbers. What is your cost of goods sold? What's the percentage to give a distributor? How about if you sell on TikTok Shop? What's going to be the real cost of that? All of that ties in to the first part, which is phase 1. Then we go into phase 2, which is now we're in action. Now we're selling. We recommend that you start as well with direct to consumer. Why? Because you can communicate directly with the buyer. If we don't do that, you're talking to a distributor. You never know where your product is selling. It's very important for us to speak and get feedback from the consumers. That comes from direct to consumer, getting affiliates and other strategies that we use. And of course, scaling. This is what everybody wants. This is where we come from. This is our world, wholesale distribution. Selling to thousands, hundreds of thousands of accounts in the US and Mexico. It's where we come from. And when we start a product, a project, a company, we're always with the exit in mind. We started to exit. We don't start it to cash flow. We start these companies to exit. And we've exited in many different ways, and we'll go over them as well in the next couple of minutes.
So here's the roadmap that we use, right? Is at the beginning, most people are confused. They don't know where to start. That's what we find out when we meet a lot of our customers, a lot of our partners in our incubator. They come in, and the first thing they want is a formulation, right? That's the first thing. And then we start asking them, who is your avatar? Who's your perfect client? And they can't answer that question. What is the delivery vehicle? Well, we want a 10 ounce or a 12 ounce bottle. Okay. And then we start asking more questions. So when there isn't a plan, then it starts to fall out of line. Or we meet them where they have a product ready to sell, and we ask them if they've trademarked their product yet, which is something they should do at the beginning. So we have a step-by-step plan that goes week by week that helps you lay this out from idea to do it. And then a lot of times, and you said this right, Jorge, we feel bad when we meet someone that comes to us after 2 years and has spent $250,000 because they made all these mistakes along the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I have a story just off I have 20 or 30, but let me tell you just one. I had a gentleman. He had a terrific idea with a custom mold, and he went and he spent a lot of money, as you know, to do his own custom plastic PET mold, and it was fantastic. It looked fantastic. The product was incredible. And then I looked at it and I said, "That's not going to fit." Well, what do you mean? Did you go measure the shelves? What do you mean? Did you go measure the shelf at the store, in the refrigerator shelf? No. Okay, go do it. He went, it didn't fit. 250,000 bottles.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Here's a lot of the myths that we talk about, right? We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. Just so everyone knows, we have the largest LinkedIn group on LinkedIn for fast moving consumer goods. We have over 41,000 members in it. So we talk to quite a few of them every day, both online, in person, on Zoom. And there's a lot of myths, and we want to, get it from the hobbyist to the CEO, right? If my idea is good enough, it will sell, right? That's the one we hear the most, Jorge. But what's the truth, right?
Well, the truth is this. I had a publicly traded company that came to us for capsules. They wanted capsules, one for fat loss, one for, no, it would be so that you could eat carbs and it would trap the carbs, and one for energy. And fabulous packaging, fabulous everything. They said, let's go and open 1,000 stores to test it. Great. Let's go open 1,000 stores. That's not hard, by the way. We went and we opened 1,000 stores and we said, okay, now what are we going to do? How are we going to make it so that it churns? So that once we sell it into the store, it sells over and over again. And they said, no, we don't need to do that. It's so fantastic. It's going to sell on its own. And as you can imagine, a month later, the stores called us, can you come pick up your product?
Right.
1,000 stores. Painful.
Right. Very painful. The second myth that we hear all the time is they want to focus on the product. We want to focus on the product. We want to make it perfect before we go on and think about the business. And we come at it from a different point of view, right? We need to make sure there's enough margin. Someone who hasn't done this before believes that the price they're selling for is the retail price. And that's very, very far from the difference from what really happens. You may sell your product for $2.99 on the shelf, but you're not getting $2.99, right? There's people in the middle, right? We always call it the wonderful freight is in the middle. There's the retailer margin that's in the middle. There's the distributor in the middle that needs to make it. So we need to focus on that. Those things need to be focused on before we can then design what the product is, or look at what our competition is, look at the size, look at all those things. And then the last one, probably one of the myths that me and you battle all the time, is when our clients say to us that they want to order a truckload of product because they get the best price. Okay? We deal with that on a constant basis. And yes, it's true. Volume cures all ill. So if you want to order 10,000 of them, or a truckload, yes, you're going to get a better price at a truckload. So your co-manufacturer is going to convince you to do it at a truckload price because you get a better price doing that. But here's what happens, right? Something inevitably will go wrong. Again, we've launched 1,000 products. We've made every mistake in the book, right? The co-man can make a mistake. The formulator can make a mistake. The printer can make a mistake. So what we always recommend is what we call POC, or proof of concept. So once you do the proof of concept, you can take the product from formulation to actually making it in the factory, but do 10,000 bottles instead of a truckload, which is 100,000 bottles. And then you can use those products for samples. You can use them for affiliates. You can use that to raise capital. Write it off as marketing. Don't look at it as a COGS, a cost of goods sold. So I think those are the three biggest myths that we wanted to get past, is that you need to think like a CEO and not think as a hobbyist.
Or a formulator or a designer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little bit, Jorge, about the 90-day execution framework?
Yeah, we're going to go over each one of these one by one. And again, if you're stuck in one of these, let us know so that we can talk more about it. Let's start.
Well, a little bit about us. We said we were going to give you formal introductions. So my name is Sandro Pianconi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fast Moving Consumer Goods. I've been doing this for 30 years. So I guess I started when I was 9. No, I'm just kidding. And Jorge, the same at 30. We've launched over 1,000 items. We built distribution companies both in the U.S. and Mexico. Jorge distributed to 17,000 stores in the U.S. and together we had a Miller Beer distributor in Mexico.
Yeah. And 17,000 stores with our own trucks, training our own distributors, plus chains. All of the chains, Target, Walmart, 7-Eleven, Circle K. I did programs for Target, for 7-Eleven, for Walgreens. I did probably 50 programs for Walgreens, for 4,000 Walgreens. We're also the authors of Build Your Beverage Empire, now in 3rd edition, and Wholesale MBA, Marketing Karma, and 10 other books. We've sent together 3 companies public, and all together 5 companies public. So quite a few.
Quite a few. We talked about launching over 1,000 products, consumer good products, from food, beverage, supplements, alcohol. In our incubator, we have a iDrink, to a energy drink, to a tequila, to a protein bar, a dentist, a toothpaste, a mouthwash with that's all organic. So from formulation to manufacturing to supply chain, wholesale distribution, retail, export to Mexico, we've done it all.
And we've owned manufacturing plants as well, where we've manufactured, I don't know how many products for how many companies, but everything from capsules to shots to beverages to 50,000 square feet we had in San Diego, manufacturing every single day. Yeah. And of course, we work with some stars, not only with companies like Miller and Budweiser and those guys, but also with some celebrities as well.
Yeah, we have a celebrity division that me and used to run. So Snoop Dogg is one of our clients. Rick Ross, Cheech and Chong. You in the past has dealt with Steve Young. Who was the basketball player that went to Korea?
Well, I've done three. Carmelo Anthony, Shaquille O'Neal, and Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, that's right. That's right. Very good. Okay, here's the blueprint. If we want to go with phase one, you can start. I'll jump in when we talk about the corporation and IP. I like that kind of stuff. I know you're more on the marketing side, but yeah. We'll start.
Yeah. And we're going to go fast. So again, if you want us to stop, or if you have specific questions, you will have time at the end also. But if you want to interrupt, just in case we miss something, because this is a lot of information. Yeah. And again, first, you start with what Sandra's going to talk about, which is all of your corporate stuff to set up. Why do you need to do it? Because remember that we're setting up for exit. We're setting up your company, our company, for an exit and for funding. If we don't start it from scratch, then it becomes very difficult to change in the future.
Right. So, okay. So three things. Yeah. There's a reason why you need a corporation, right? Instead of me opening a business called Sandro Pianconi Olive Oil, right? For example, or Jorge Olson Tequila. Starting is the worst way to do it as a personal person. One is from a liability standpoint. So the reason you set up a corporation, for those of you who've never done it before, it's the corporate bail that in case someone sues, they're suing the corporation and they're not suing you. So that's reason number one. Of course, people will tell you, hey, you need to do an S Corp or an LLC. And we tell them that they're wrong, especially if it's a fast moving consumer good. You want to have a C Corp for two reasons. One is it's much easier to raise capital in a C Corp. But also, we use what's called Rule 1202, is we set you up for an exit that if you do it the way we propose you to do it, you will pay zero capital gains when you sell your company in 5 years. How do we know this? We've been through it. We've had an exit, and we know exactly how the tax law works. So we're speaking from experience. Third, we set you up in a zero state tax. So no matter where you live, it doesn't matter if you live in California, New Jersey, it doesn't matter to me. We are setting up the company. You are setting up your brand in either Nevada, Wyoming, or Texas to do a zero. Or Delaware. Last but not least, let's talk about trademarks. I am amazed. Well, I shouldn't be, but I'm shocked by the amount of people that I meet that launch a product without getting a trademark. So nowadays, for the amount of money that you would spend to get it done, either two things are going to happen. Either it's going to work wonderfully and it's going to take off and someone's going to send you a cease and desist letter because they own the trademark, or it's working so well that some smart person is going to go trademark it and then send you a letter of cease and desist saying, hey, you owe me $50,000 or $100,000. And we've seen it all. So that is, we just call corporate governance at the beginning. And then last but not least is insurance. You can, not if, but when you will get sued for having a product on there, we need you to set you up so you have insurance for product liability and inventory product there. So we set you up at the beginning. Those things need to be set up before we start your entrepreneur journey. So as Jorge says, at the end, we'll ask you where you are in your journey and how we can help you.
And then if you are in a highly sensitive or IP sensitive industry where you have patents and trademarks, etc., maybe you even need IP insurance. We're currently, one of our brands is $30,000 in just for the trademark, defending a trademark with depositions and instead of building the brand, right? We're dealing with that. So let's not do that.
Right. And then last but not least, I forgot, one of my favorite is there's some new laws that have changed in the last year that you're able to write off $500,000 in R&D tax credits. So that's a tax credit that you can take off of your taxable bill or payroll tax. And so what falls under that? Your formulations, your samples, everything that we could stick into that bucket will come out of there. So a lot of people don't know that. Most CPAs don't know that. So that is something that we've become experts at, and we use it quite a bit.
And then some shelters, Sandro, for exits as well.
Correct.
Yeah, some tax shelters for the exits. And then the fun part begins. You start with formulation, with your idea, validating your idea, your pricing. In the old days, we would do long form business plans. Not anymore. Right now, you can validate your idea easily online. You just need to know what to search for. And then from there, you start thinking about who is your avatar, who is your perfect consumer. If you pick your perfect consumer and you do everything backwards from there, you will make few mistakes. If you go the other way around and say, let me build it, formulate it, do the artwork first, then you're going to do it twice. So let's do it in reverse, start at the end, and then work backwards. Once you have a formula, and when we do formulas, we go through this with you. We first establish who the perfect consumer is, and then we do the formula, no matter if you're doing a bar or a beverage or a shot or skincare, no matter what you're doing, we would do this with you and everybody else. So on the call, you would have a marketer, which is this guy. You would have somebody from operations like Sandro. You would have a formulator or a chemist or somebody from manufacturing. That's very important as well, that you have manufacturing in mind. Very important. Most formulations do not formulate for manufacturing. Most formulations formulate for you. In other words, you go formulate it and you think you have your formula done. You take it from the formulator to the manufacturer and it's not scalable, and probably it's too expensive. What does that mean? It means you cannot sell it and make a profit. And we see that all the time. This is why it's so important to be in touch with the manufacturer before you formulate, right? That's very, very important. Now, Sandro, we're going to go all of these in all of the slides. Do you rather have it here, or do you have it in the other slides?
We can go. Yeah, we jumped through. So we already talked about the entity setup, the IP, and the pillar 3. So I went through that. So I apologize.
Yeah.
We talked about the avatar here. We're good there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is where we started at the end.
Yes, at the end. So a little bit about co-manufacturing, right? We know our way around co-manufacturing. We know how important it is. We understand MOQ. So, the manufacturer, of course, wants to hire a manufacturer, right? We always want to do truckloads, right? That doesn't mean you have to do a truckload, right? There'll be a time and a place where you do a truckload, but at the beginning, you're testing the market, right? So you need to do what we call a proof of concept. Right? So proof of concept could be 5,000, could be 10,000 bottles that you are testing with your consumers, with your investors, with buyers to do it. Also, when we set you up, we find 2 co-manufacturers, a plan A and a plan B. Someone says, well, why do I need a plan A and a plan B? Well, the world we live in, either there's a storm or there's a flood, or they're the nicest people in the world and their machine broke down and we're waiting 60 days for a part, or we're in the middle of it right now, Jorge, where we're ready to place 2 truckloads and they're busy and they pushed us a month. Even though they promised us an April date, they pushed us to a May date, and we're accepting it. So we will have a plan A and a plan B for you when you launch the product. So that's something that you always need. And then last but not least, 3PL logistics. People ask what that is. It's third-party logistics. Most people, when they start out, want to do it in their garage. They say, well, I come home from work and I can ship out the orders. It's only a couple of them, right? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to set you up for success. You want to have a third-party logistics. They're doing so much volume that they're saving money on the shipping. Also, they get it out quicker. And third, they're insured. But also, if you go to raise capital and someone wants to do an audit, they're not to do a rollback. They can check the 3PL and say, hey, this inventory was there, and you can use it. There's a whole host of reasons why we recommend using a 3PL. Jorge, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, that's boring. But I do want to add to the ingredients.
Well, let's get to the fun stuff.
When you're looking at the ingredients and your formula, you have to understand that that's not the most important part of your business. You cannot get any IP. You cannot patent your formula. That's very important. And also, when you formulate, the reason you want a marketer or a salesperson in the conversation, it's because you should be asking, what is the price? How much do I want to buy this? What's the cost of goods sold? You have to have that. And then what's the cost to the distributor or the wholesaler or the retailer and or the consumer? You have to ask all of these questions when you're talking about ingredients and formulation, not when they say, oh, it's $2, but wait, the competition sells it for $2.50. There's no way I can make money. Oh, we can reformulate for you, which is usually what happens. So from the beginning, you have to formulate with marketing in mind. You have to have your strategy, your business model done before you start formulating.
You should know what you want to sell it for and what you want to make it for before you go to the formulator and the co-man.
Yeah.
So Jorge, this is step 4. I know you love this part, and a lot has changed in the last 5 years. So there's some old guys on here that I could see. So what has changed in the last 5 years?
Well, let's talk about in the last 3 decades. When I started, where I went store by store with my trucks, delivering products in San Diego, California, LA, and in Arizona, it was very easy to get into a store. We could walk in any product that you had into any store that you wanted, no problem. Chain, independent, liquor store, even fusion stores, even a car wash, anything. It was easy. You could put it on the refrigerator, no problem. You could put it on the counter, no problem. I had products on the counter. I had my own racks. I had my own baskets, wire baskets. I have my own spinners. I had product in the refrigerator. I had sunglasses. I had everything, the electronics, food, vitamins, beverages, everything that you can imagine. It was easy. Getting product into chains was easy as well. There's a back door that you can take to sell it if you have DSD, direct store delivery. So that was easier back then as well. I got into these big chains through the back door, into Walgreens and 7-Eleven and Target and all of these big chains. So that's gone as well. Then you had, I think the most difficult one was that in the past, you needed to deal with 1 or 2 people. If they didn't like your product, you're not going to make it. These we called category buyers. If the category buyer didn't like you, didn't like your product, then you had to go one by one, open store by store. Now, you don't have to deal with category buyers. You don't have to deal with this filter. Let the people decide. Now there's a democracy of capitalism when it comes to fast-moving consumer goods. The reason is social media plus COVID. Let me explain. Of course, social media has a big role, or the biggest role to play on this, especially now TikTok Shop, even more than Amazon did in the past. And if you combined COVID with TikTok, you have an incredible business model. What happened during COVID is people started to buy products instead of going to the store, entering the store and buying what's on the shelf, which is, like we said, what people already filtered for you. The category buyer decided what you can and cannot see. So once all of that was gone, then you could buy online. And then COVID, everybody was buying online, and they were buying not a single, but a case. That happened with snacks, that happened with furniture even, but especially with fast-moving consumer goods, with snacks, with beverages, with protein bars, with potato chips, etc. Now you started seeing a lot of small players become big players because they could connect directly to the consumer. Now, two things happen and two things are very important for you. Number one, don't try to compete with Coca-Cola, with Pepsi-Cola, with Nestle, with Red Bull. And this is what would happen before. You wanted to be in the refrigerator door at 7-Eleven. Guess what? You're competing with $1 trillion, with a T, $1 trillion of market cap. It is very difficult to compete with $1 trillion of market cap. And you needed to be mainstream in order to make it to the shelf. Now you can have a very small niche like people who practice yoga. And you can sell your company in 5 years having a niche like that. Why? Because in social media, you can communicate directly with your avatar. You can have clubs. You can put them on a 30-day refill. So the whole system it shifts so much that now the buyers, the ones that used to be the filter, are not going on social media and now are placing orders for their stores on social media. Okay, a big part is that the buyers are no longer my age. Now the buyers are millennials and Gen Zs. So they are on TikTok. They are buying from TikTok Shop. And then they're saying, hey, I wonder why this product is not in my store or in my chain. They give us a call and then they place a purchase order for their store. And now it's how can we market to drive the traffic from TikTok, Instagram, whatever you have, into those stores, because we still have to sell the product in the stores. So now that's the magic right now. How can you do both at the same time without paying for slotting, without paying to play, without paying to be on the shelf? It's a big change, Sandro. A lot of things happened. I think it's all for the better.
I agree. And a lot of things too, right? It's exciting, but also a lot of our clients in our incubator, they come to us, they want to go sell retail, right? They want to go sell to Target. They want to go sell to Walmart. And then when we ask them, we tell them there's that buyer, there's that wall there, right? That they got to get through the buyer. But let's assume it takes 6 to 9 months, sometimes a year to put you on the planogram. Then you have to give them terms. So even though they'll say 30-day terms, it becomes 60 or 90-day terms, all those things. And then, so that takes a year. Some people don't have a year, right? They want to launch and they want to launch now. So they don't need anyone's permission to launch on TikTok. Also, they get paid in advance, which is huge, right? You're getting retail, right? Yes, there's cost. Of course, there's no panacea. You have to drive traffic. You have to do certain things, videos and so on, but you don't need anyone's permission. And Jorge, I know we spend a lot of time on beverages. That's your specialty. But one of when we did a little bit of research on it's a newer brand. I think they started in November or December. How many 12 packs are they selling on TikTok?
Oh, I'm looking at one of the research companies that I did on beverages. We're selling 524,000 12 packs per month at $34.95. And most of the sales was through affiliates, paying affiliates 15%. But then they had specials, they had promotions, they had rah events. They took it offline, in other words. Another one was doing 54,000 12 packs per month. And this one, most of it was TikTok Live, and the minority of sales was through affiliates. So even if you just turn your camera right like you are doing right now, sure, and you talk about your product, you can sell on TikTok. You just have to be consistent. You have to have a script. We reverse engineered all of the scripts from the most successful companies per category. And it's important that you know what sells and what doesn't sell since the beginning.
Yeah. And Jorge, this is step 5. After you've done the launch on TikTok, after you have the buyers calling you, so we do have someone that we did formulations for. It just so happened that he was #1 on TikTok for a creatine gummy, was getting calls from buyers, and he needed manufacturing that he could scale with them. So we don't recommend go to retail first. We recommend D2C, but if everything works the way it should, now we help you with retail. So between us and our partners, we have products in over 30,000 stores. So that doesn't mean one product in 30,000 stores, multiple products in 30,000 stores. We have proven buyer presentation systems, brokers, slotting fees, how to negotiate that, road shows. We have
insurance. We have insurance.
We have a local Walmart code. So if you want to get into Walmart in your town of East Lake, Chula Vista, San Diego, we have a code that can get you in there. So we have a plan to get you when you're ready. And people say, well, of course I'm ready. You need to have inventory. You need to have accounts receivable. You need to have all that in place, ready to go. And then usually that comes to where we started at the beginning. Either two things happen in your journey as an entrepreneur, right? Things are going so well, they're scaling, and you need to raise capital. We come and we help with setting up how to raise capital. As you said, we've been involved in 5 different public companies. I think we've raised over $100 million. We have to set it up at the beginning properly, but there's different rounds of raising capital, from seed to Reg C to Reg A to an IPO, all along the way. And then, of course, if you have a local brother-in-law or uncle at a bank financing works too. But usually in a startup, they don't like that. They want to see 3 years of history with positive EBITDA for that. So the way we're taking you is scaling a brand in 3 years, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. This is what we see most of the time. When someone wants to do it themselves, the solo route, they get up in the morning and they don't know where to start, right? They're calling their lawyer or they're calling their accountant and he's trying to help them raise capital, or God forbid, they get in the middle of the marketing or they're involved in sales calls. We've seen it all. They don't know where to start first. They don't know if they want the co-man or the formulator. We have a plan that's step by step. We know how it's been done. We've done it 1,000 times, and everything's coordinated step by step. So a little bit about scaling. So Jorge, you've done a lot of research on this. I'm sure most people will say they know who Poppy is, but 3 years ago, did you know who Poppy was? That's the question. If anyone knew what Poppy was 3 years ago, and Poppy was to the left, just so you know. That was the left bottle was Poppy.
Yeah, this was a re-engineering with sprints, the way we do it, the same way we do it. And to make it short, they sold in 3 years. They went from $60,000 a month to selling the company for $2 billion with $850 in cash up front and the rest in Pepsi stock, which anybody here would take Pepsi stock right now if they offered it to you. And more importantly, it sold for 20 times gross sales. The 10 times is very high. So we all shoot for 10 times. They did 20 times gross sales. All of this happened in 3 years. All of it in the beginning was TikTok, was driven by TikTok, TikTok Shop, TikTok Live affiliates. And we use the same sprint model for our brands and for the brands that we incubate as well.
Also, 2 other ones, local San Diego company called Once Upon a Farm. Same 3-year sprint, had an IPO at $724 million. Started out the same way, rebranding, got it done, and Souse, which we say is the next Poppy, which is a hot sauce. And on their cap table, they issued stock, which is what we do for our incubator clients, to TikTok affiliates.
Yeah, something important there is that the program that we have, when you come work with us, it's a program, and you have to be a good fit. You have to agree to certain things and working a certain way. For example, we want everybody to make money. We want everybody to have stock, including the affiliates, including the DSDs, including the people who gets us into these accounts. So if somebody's getting your product into Target, they're going to have stock. Into Costco, they're going to have stock. 7-Eleven, same thing. If we get a big distributor or a DSD guy, they're going to have stock. And they're going to make more from the stock that they ever make from selling your product. That's important if you want to exit soon, if you want to do a sprint and exit. If not, then it's not important. But if so, it is very important.
So for our 12-week program, we're trying to eliminate all the friction. A lot of you on the phone that we talk to, you have full-time jobs, right? So you want to start this business because you want to have freedom, you want to build something, you want to leave a legacy to your children. Who is this built for? For full-time professionals. All we ask for you is to put in an hour to 2 per week with our structured roadmap. This is designed specifically for first-time founders. But if you're not a first-time founder or you're farther ahead in your, we could talk about how we could still help you along the way. And then the sequence just prevents you from making mistakes, errors, loss of capital, and so on. So what do you get in our 12-week launch incubator? We have a 12-week curriculum where once a week you come in, there's a video that you
can amigo, acabamos de refrescar el correo y no tenemos correo por parte de ellos.
That are there with homework where you there's different forms that you would look at so to put together your business plan. The most important part is live group founder calls. So once a week, the same time every week for an hour, you come on, both myself and Jorge are on the calls. We answer all the questions from you or from the other founders on the call that ask. And a lot of times the calls are the same. Let's say you forget after the call, you don't want to wait a week. You can send an email to our help desk, so unlimited support that we get if you have questions for IP, suppliers, or roadblocks, or you had a thought that you wanted to run by. And I use the word homework, sorry, wrong, launch planner. So structured workbooks for accountability. So for example, one of them might be you want to launch a protein bar. So we ask for you to go out to the stores and look at the different protein bars. What do you like? What you don't like? What's the size? What's the color? We ask you to do a little shopping and put together a little list for us. And then we do trusted introduction. So we introduce you to our IP lawyers, our formulators, our co-manufacturers. At a certain point, retail buyers. We do all the introductions for you.
And if you're not in this boat, you might be in another boat. Let me give you some examples. We work with investment bankers. I work with maybe 27 fund managers that want to invest in the beverage industry, with venture capitalists, with family offices. If you're an investor, maybe you are already in stores and you need to raise more capital. Maybe you want to plug in with the fund. So if you are on the other side, if you're incredibly advanced, then we have other types of programs which are more incubations than anything else. Maybe you need to reformulate or to re-audit your formulation. Maybe you need to change manufacturer. So everybody is in a different place at the moment. But we do have a program for those of you who are just starting that. And the reason that we did this program is because we saw so many people wasting so much money. And we want them to go from zero to having a product, even if it's samples, in 90 days. And now you can get affiliates with it. We can plug you in with the list of affiliates. We have studios for live in the US and in Mexico. So you can be plugged into that. So you can prepare for scaling. But for that, you need at least your samples.
Yeah. So fast forward 90 days, right? You met us today. We're March 26th. We look ahead 90 days. Where would you be 90 days from now? Your corporation would be structured perfectly with the perfect tax optimization. All your trademarks would be filed and protected. You would already have your formulation. You would know what your gross margins are, what you would be selling retail to distributors. You would have your manufacturing done and your product ready for market. So that's what this would look like in 90 days.
Yeah. And some of the questions are really good questions that we're going to tackle. For example, They're asking us if we deal with startups. Well, what we're talking about right now, what Sandro was speaking of, is for startups. But we've worked with companies all over the place, from zero all the way to IPO, pre-IPO, $100 million in sales, 3 million a month on TikTok Shop, everywhere. And we've developed Miller Beer. Remember, we were Miller Beer distributors. We were 5 Hour Energy. We had 5 Hour Energy under exclusivity for Mexico. So we've worked with products from, I have an idea and I don't know what to do with it, or is it a good idea, all the way to, I'm going to do an IPO.
Yeah. So let's do it now. Let's open into questions. Anyone has questions, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you, ask your question. Me or Jorge will answer it. Next steps would be, if you want to set up a call, it's a free discovery call. You would go to here and scan that, or I'm going to drop in there, or Fernando, if you can drop in there the link for my calendar. This week's a little bit busy, but next week I'm open, that we could set up a time, talk about where you are in your entrepreneur journey and how we can help you. So
Sandro travels all over the country. He goes to, I would say, even every single trade show that deals with anything that even smells like a consumer packaged good, packaging, labeling, supply chain, everything. So if you're going to a trade show, also you can book an appointment with Sandro or meet him at a trade show as well.
So
what's your next trade show, Sandro?
It's in 3 weeks. It's in Los Angeles at the LA Convention Center. It's called NAMA. It's for vending, not just vending machines, which you think of, that old machine where you go in and right? They actually, this is where they do trust vending. They put them in Google, they put them in Facebook, they put them in all these different places. So super, super cool. I see some questions. No one's raised their hand yet, but I see them in here. So I am going to ask. So someone said, I have an LLC. Is that okay? So obviously you have your LLC. That's fine. But the question is, you can raise capital if you have 3 or 4 good friends that are going to put money in, right? That's fine. But you could switch it. You could stop the LLC and start a C Corp. A C Corp would be needed if you're going to raise capital, if you're going to scale, and if you want to exit and not pay capital gains. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on an LLC. So that was question. I saw another one that said, I did a trademark, but it hasn't been approved yet. That's okay. So what that means is that they filed a trademark. Now you're first in line, right? You're first there. But when you do it, you can put it with a little TM. So if you've ever seen the little TM in the right-hand corner, when you get it, it's an R with a circle. But in the meantime, you can put a TM and it allows you to sell. Matter of fact, you want to have a product out there. So if someone challenges it, you could say, not only did I register the trademark, but I also have the product out there. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for jumping on. We will set up a time for next week, and then we can answer all your questions, and we'd love to have you part of our 90-day incubator program. Thank you.